What's liberty got to do with it? We're going to be talking about liberty today, and we're going to be jumping into Jeremiah chapter 34 because there's something interesting. I like to call it Jeremiah's liberty, and I'm going to explain what that is. And I think this is relevant to our culture today. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about Candace Owens and her war with Erica Kirk. And I'm also going to be talking a little bit about Chuckles. That's my name for Tyler Robinson. I'm going to call him Chuckles from now on till the end of his sentencing, which I think will probably take about a year. Seems like they're just going to drag this thing out. But he made a courtroom appearance today, and so we're going to be talking about that a little bit. So buckle up. Welcome to Black Swan Revelations.
In a dark world, remember to be the light. Welcome to Black Swan Revelations. Here is your host, the Black Swan himself, Shane.
So what's liberty got to do with it anyway? Why is Shane talking about liberty? Well, we have to talk about liberty because America was founded on liberty, freedom, right? Anytime you talk about people coming to America, they always say the reason why you want to come to America is because of all the freedoms that it allows. People have rights in America. They have rights. So we're going to go to Jeremiah chapter 34. I'm not going to read the entire chapter, but I think it's important to have a little bit of context here before we get into this court appearance that Tyler Robinson made. Chuckles. I'm going to refer to him from here on forward as Chuckles. So context. Jeremiah is living in the time frame just before Israel gets captured by the Babylonians. And at this stage, Israel is trying everything not to go to Babylon. In fact, they're trying to make a deal with Egypt to come and defend them against the Babylonians. And it works for a little bit. It works for a season. But God said, you know what? I'm basically going to put a stop to this because I told you, because of all the things that you've done in this land. And if you read, this is probably why most people can't get through reading Jeremiah, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel. It's heavy against Israel. And when I say Israel, I'm talking about corporate Israel. I'm talking about all 12 tribes. At this stage, Israel has been, now I'm going to flip. I'm going to switch gears now. Because there's corporate Israel, which represents all 12 tribes. And then there's the northern 10 tribes, which also make up Israel. And it's confusing to people that are new to the Bible, new to Christianity. What happened after King Solomon died is Israel split into two factions, into two nations. We call it Northern Israel, which is made up of 10 tribes, and Southern Israel, which is called Judah. Back then, they wouldn't be caught dead being called Israel because to them that represented the north. And the Assyrians came in, captured the Israelites, took them to Assyria, and supplanted other people from other lands into that area that we know today as the area of Samaria. So this is what was happening, is people were being removed. Israelites, the 10 northern tribes were being removed, and then new people would come in that didn't know anything about Yahweh God Almighty. And it got to the point that they were getting devoured by animals, and the king said, this is horrible. Our people are dying because they don't know the God that lived in this land. It used to be called Canaan, now called Israel. We don't know what kind of a God this is, so we need somebody to teach us some things, teach our people some of the customs so we don't offend this God, because these animals keep attacking us. So while they're doing that, Judah is also worried about an invasion that is coming from Babylon, and it comes in waves. It doesn't come all at once. And God tells Jeremiah to tell the people that this is coming. And what did Judah say to Jeremiah? This is a surprise. This is a shocker. I don't understand, or we don't understand corporately. And when I say corporately now, I'm talking about Judah, the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Benjamin, and arguably the Levites that fled from the 10 northern tribes. We don't understand what's going on here, God. This is insane. We are staying here and we're continuing how we've lived because you promised us this land, and we're going to do what we've been doing basically ever since we got here, actually. And God said, no, I'm going to remove you to Babylon because of a couple of little tiny things that you did. You didn't listen to Moses. Moses said not to worship any other God. And in fact, you worship more gods than any of these other nations around you. You did worse than your sister Israel. I considered her like a prostitute. But you were even worse than a prostitute. What could that be? Well, a normal prostitute would extract money from the people that they were doing business with, sleeping with. A contrary prostitute would actually pay people. So imagine women paying men for sex. That's what Israel was doing. They were paying people to teach them about all kinds of things. How do you barbecue a child again? How do you do that? What's the god's name? Molech? Okay, I gotta write that down. I gotta remember that. That's amazing. You mean we go to the Valley of Tophet and we could sacrifice our children there? Yeah? Cool. And what about the gods that are, that we have to light candles to? And what about those gods? Like, what do we have to do? Oh, we got to light candles on top of our rooftop to worship to the Queen of Heaven? Okay, cool. Okay, that makes sense. And they would do that. And they were worse than Israel was. 10 northern tribes. They were worse. It was almost like they're 5 times, 10 times worse. And they didn't even try and hide it. Judah was getting to the point where they didn't hide anything. They were eating bacon like it was going out of style. Swine's flesh. Jews eating swine's flesh. This is what was going on in Jeremiah's day. They would hide behind a tree and they'd be like eating bacon. And then they'd see a poor person, kick them in the pants and demand money, and then wipe their hands on their clothes and then go into the temple and say, we've done nothing wrong. We worship you. We worship you. And meanwhile, they're thinking, man, I can't wait to go home and worship a God that we have at home, a tree that was nailed to a floor with silver balls and with gold balls. And we'll pray to it and we'll honor it and all this kind of stuff. So they would go out into the woods, they cut down a tree, bring it home, plant it, and worship it. Light it up and worship it. So this is what Israel was doing in Jeremiah's day. Jeremiah said, or God said to Jeremiah, the Babylonians are coming. I had to pause for a sec. I got to let you guys know. I don't have any notes. So I'm trying to think about Charlie Kirk and Tyler Robinson stuff while I'm unpacking Jeremiah 34, and I'm praying this all comes together because I just thought of the title. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, I could talk about this. I could talk about liberty, but I have to kind of break it down and explain what's going on in Jeremiah's time so you get a better picture of when I flip over to our current time. And I'm going to try and do it in 30 minutes, but I might need a little bit more time. I'm hoping that you guys are okay with this because I know there's people in the comments that say things like in the past. I like it when Shane breaks down scripture and tells it in the form of a story so that we get a better picture of what's going on, because sometimes the Old Testament is a little bit complicated. And because you know me, I love the Old Testament. I've read it 25 times in the last 4 years. It'll be 4 years in February. So I'm quite familiar with the terrain. I may not know all the names of people, of all the kings, because there's a lot of kings, a lot of good ones, a lot of bad ones. But in Jeremiah's time frame, we're just focusing on what was the mindset of Israel. The mindset of Israel is we can do whatever we want. We are free. We have the liberty to do whatever we want. And God said, you don't have that liberty. In fact, according to Moses, you're supposed to free people after 6 years, meaning if you have servants, you should free them after 6 years. On the 7th year, they are to be released. It's the year of release. And then on the 50th year, the year of Jubilee, the 7th cycle around, the 7th year of the 7th cycle, 49 years, on the 50th year, you're to get all your land back. So if you sold it to someone, you get that land back unless you sold it to a priest. That's a different story, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about just land, trading, buying, selling, all this kind of stuff. Slaves, you go back to where you came from. If you got into debt, that debt would be forgiven, all this kind of stuff. And even it got to the point where the priests, if you read Leviticus, the Levites were charged to not have crazy usury, meaning as you get close to the year of Jubilee, you're not to get downhearted or sad or depressed because somebody comes to you, an Israelite comes to you and wants to buy a piece of real estate, buy a piece of land or buy a home or something, and you're like, man, if they buy this, I can't give enough security on this loan for this property because in a year, I have to free them from this bondage. So I'm going to charge them an exorbitant if that's a word, amount of interest to make up for 1 year before the year of release. If they approached me on year 1, leading up to the 50th year 1, I can give you an amazing deal, amazing deal. 0 interest, no payments for a full year. But as you get close to Jubilee, the Levites were tempted to charge more tax, more interest on transactions. God's like, don't worry about that stuff. I got you. I got you covered. Don't worry about it. But Israel rejected the year of release. They kept plowing their land on the 7th year. Year after year, they never missed a heartbeat. They never practiced the Sabbath. They never bothered. And Charlie Kirk's book, coincidentally, is on the Sabbath, and it's sold out on Amazon. You can't buy it. It's sold out. It almost sold out right away before they even printed it, but it's sold out. You can't buy the book online. Crazy, right? And that's on the Sabbath. But the Jews didn't practice the Sabbath. They didn't practice the year of release. They didn't practice the Jubilee. They didn't practice anything. They ignored almost every commandment from Moses that Moses wrote down in the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. We call that the law. They didn't practice anything. And they were actually worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. God says this to them. He's like, I understood what Sodom and Gomorrah, why they got destroyed and everything, because of pride and all this stuff. But you guys, you know why they were destroyed, and yet you don't even flinch. You don't even try and hide your sins. Instead, you say to me, you've done nothing wrong. And instead, you say to me things like, the fathers that eat sour grapes, their children's teeth will get set on edge. And God says, if you say that proverb one more time, I'm going to knock your teeth out. Paraphrasing. Why? Because it's a transference of their sin to their children. They're saying, look, I'm not responsible for me eating this pig flesh, this bacon. I'm not responsible for worshiping the Queen of Heaven. That's on my children. That's their problem. God's going to deal with them. Even if I don't have children right now, that'll be in the future. That's when God's going to recompense. He's going to be the avenger of my children. That's how Israel approached God on a daily basis, because they would chant this. They would say this proverb, and God said, you know what, from now on, that is forbidden. You're not allowed to say that. And another thing that Israel was not allowed to say, because they kept coming up to Jeremiah, and they'd be like this. What's the burden of the Lord today? What's he asking us to do today? As in, stop sinning. It's like, oh, what a burden. God is telling me to stop sleeping with women. Everybody in Israel was looking lustfully onto their neighbor. They were neighing, basically almost treating each other like animals. They would sleep with one person, then another person. They go door to door doing this kind of stuff. And they treat poor people miserably, and they sacrifice their children to Moloch. They'd light candles as far as the eye can see at nighttime. All these candles, every single candle that was lit at nighttime was dedicated. Can't see that. Was dedicated to the Queen of Heaven, a God in heaven, little g. And they would do this all over the place. And it was disgusting for God, because he's saying, I told you not to ask questions about these so-called gods that are really nothing. But you're not to ask the Canaanites about this stuff, because they're going to lead you down a path. They basically would would bury their firstborn. They would dedicate their firstborn into the walls. And they would say, this house is now cleansed because over there in that corner, that's my firstborn son. He's in that corner. It's like a cornerstone, but he's an actual body is buried into the cement of these walls. This is what the Canaanites would do. That's what was going on in the time of Jericho when Jericho fell. That's what they were practicing. And Joshua said, never let Jericho be built again. Cursed be anyone, because they were dedicating these cities in the name of their son and killing them and burying them in the rocks. There's probably something to that where Jesus said, and the rocks will cry out. There's probably something there. So all this is going on in front of Jeremiah, and Jeremiah is from the tribe of Benjamin, which is interesting because I think there's a special blessing in there that goes all the way down to Paul of Tarshish, because Paul was a Benjamite. He's a Jew, but he's from the tribe of Benjamin, and thank God for the Jews to reach out to us Gentiles. Thank God that we have the Bible today, thanks to the Jews. It's a Jewish religion. Jesus Christ is the King of the Jews. He's the Lord of Lords. He's the King of Kings. This is why we celebrate Christmas. And I know I'm going to get some hate. I've already had it. Where people are like, why do you have a pine tree in the back? Well, there's lots of woods where I am, in the mountains and everything. Why do you have snowshoes? Well, again, I'm in Canada. This is normal. Why do you have a moose? A wooden moose. Do you bow down to it? No, it's just made out of wood. But Christmas is special because this is where we get the man-child, Jesus Christ. The child, Jesus Christ, born 2,000 years ago. The reason why I call him a man-child is because this ties in a little bit with Revelation. Not saying that man-child is Jesus Christ, but Peter in Acts refers to Jesus as a child, which is interesting. Almost like a precious child. So I think the way that we look at it is Jesus Christ, if he wasn't born, we would have nothing. He needed legally to be born of a virgin. Why? Because it was prophesied in Isaiah that this is how it was going to be done. And legally he had to do it. He couldn't come through Joseph because I forget the king's name, but one of the kings was really, really, really wicked, and his seed was basically cursed after that. So legally, Joseph was a descendant of King David through Solomon, and all the way down to basically to marrying Mary. And Mary's lineage goes all the way back to Nathan to King David. That's in the Gospel of Luke. So Luke follows another lineage, which basically allows Jesus to be born legally in the flesh because the other line was cursed. That's why Joseph couldn't actually engage with Mary to have a child, because God had already prophesied that line was done. But because Nathan was also a brother of Solomon, a son of David, it was from that lineage that went all the way to Mary. So now Jesus is legal on both sides. He's legal through his father, and he's also legal through blood through Mary. Why do I say all this stuff? I got lost in that. What was I talking about here? Basically, the whole Oh, I totally lost my thought. Maybe it'll come back to me. Talking about Jeremiah, God is talking to Israel and saying, look, you guys have not done one thing here, but I'm going to do something new. And that's where he starts prophesying about a Messiah and all this kind of stuff. He's saying, I'm going to do a new covenant. I'm going to do a new thing. And because of that, because what was happening is every time God punished Israel, their neck got a little bit thicker. They got a little bit more stubborn. And God says, man, you're so stiff-necked ever since you were in the wilderness. Like anytime you got punished, you're right back at it. So I'm doing a new covenant, one that I didn't do with your forefathers, with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Something new, something different. I'm going to circumcise people's hearts, and I'm going to put my law in their hearts. And one day you'll no longer be saying to people, know the Lord, know the Lord, know the Lord. I'm going to take care of that. And it's going to be through my branch, which is Jesus Christ, the Messiah. He's going to take care of all that stuff. And I'm going to forgive their iniquities, all those that come to my son. I'm going to take care of that. I'm going to bring you all back one day, according to Moses' prophecy. I'm going to bring you all back. But the biggest thing that God was mad at was the idea that they wouldn't let people go. They wouldn't free them because the Babylonians were coming. And Jeremiah's like, hey, you got to let these people go. Let these servants go. You don't have any servants anymore. Let them go. They would let them go. And then a week later, they're back working for them, making money for them. They're like, I told you to release these people. The Babylonians are coming. And they said, we cannot do this. So then God said to them, I'm still trying to think why I went down the road of the genealogy. What was going on there? Maybe it'll come back to me. Yeah. Anyways, God said, because you're not honoring my commandments about the year of release and the Jubilee, I'm going to pronounce a liberty to you. I'm going to release you to something. What is that something? To the sword, to pestilence, and to famine. I'm going to release you to that. Just picture somebody hanging on to somebody, and you're over a trampoline, and they're like, drop me there so I can bounce. And you're like, no, I'm going to take you over to these rocks over here, and I'm going to release you over the rocks, and whatever happens, happens to you. I'm not going to protect you anymore. I'm releasing you. I'm giving you liberty so that you could be devoured by the sword, by pestilence, which is disease, and angels coming after you nonstop, kicking you out of from one place to another. Like you'll be almost like a restless wanderer in some ways, almost like Cain. Because of all the iniquities that you have, there is no cure. There is no cure. Like I can't bandage you up and pour oil on you and you're cured. There is no cure. I have to judge you. So I'm going to release you to the sword, to pestilence, and to famine, and to beasts. That was the fourth thing, meaning animals will attack you nonstop. Out of like the weirdest times, animals will come against you. You're going to be starving. You're not going to be able to find bread. Your water, your wells are going to run dry. You're going to be constantly, you're going to enter into a battle with the sword fighting someone. And as soon as that's done, there's another fight. And it's probably even within your own camp, within your own family, man against man, woman against woman. It's just one assault after another, one famine after another. Goes good one year and then next year bad. This is what I'm releasing you to. Total freedom to fall by the sword. Total freedom to die by pestilence and by beasts and by famine. That's your liberty. And this is in Jeremiah 34. God says, I'm giving you liberty onto this. I'm releasing you to this because you didn't release the poor people. You didn't release your servants. You didn't give back land. You didn't give your land a rest. You did none of this stuff. So I'm releasing you. So isn't it interesting that in 1776, I believe it was, the French, always those French, those pesky little French. I know Candace Owens is talking about the French a lot, but you got to understand America and France, America and the French actually had a connection at one time. You'd probably be shocked to learn that Russia and America had a friendship at one time. It'd be shocked that America and China had relationships at one time, and with Japan, and with other countries. So it's shocking to people that they don't understand their American history, but the French actually helped America become America. They defeated King George. They defeated the English, and probably thanks to a lot of American Indians as well. Let's be honest here. I can go on about that, how much the Indians actually helped turn the tide of war. But yeah, the French helped out, and part of that, in celebration of Independence Day, France dedicated gave them a statue called the Statue of Liberty, based on some Roman goddess. People still today aren't sure if it's a male or female, which is interesting because America struggles with trying to figure out what a male or a female is. Isn't that interesting? You ask for independence, I would argue, from God. You can argue with me and say, no, we were for God. I would argue with you and say, no, you were arguing for your freedom, for your liberty to do whatever you wanted to do, not whatever God wanted to do, because the question was never asked, what should a righteous person do? The question was always asked, what are my rights? And that's the foundation of America. America is built on, what are my rights? We have no rights in Canada, so we don't have that problem. Our door can get kicked down at any time. In fact, some of the police have been on record to say, just leave the keys by your door, so when the robbers come in, you can they can just take your car or whatever it is, and you'll be happy. It's like, this is a thing in Canada. I'm telling you, it's crazy here. They're telling us this stuff. So I don't have any guns. Here. It's a little bit of a different vibe here in Canada. So I think even if I did have a gun, you're not allowed to store the bullets with the gun. You can't do that in Canada. It's a little weird. Whereas you guys have a standing law, stand your ground law, which means good luck breaking into an American home, because the strong man in the home is going to shoot you. He's going to put you full of holes. In Canada, we don't have those rules. Can't do that. So you Americans fought hard for your rights to be free from shackles, from control, from the king. This is your history. And wouldn't you know, at the bottom of the Statue of Liberty in 1776, when it was presented, 1784. There's that number 84 again. That number 84 keeps popping up. It's crazy that you guys will be, I think you're going to be 250 years next year, July 4th. That's going to be an interesting, if we're still here, 250 years. You don't think you guys are going to go nuts on the celebration of Independence Day leading up to that? It's crazy, right? It's crazy stuff going on. Crazy time. Israel 79. They're approaching 80. I don't think they'll make it past 84, as in before Jacob's trouble. I think we're right in that range of Jacob's trouble is going to happen. Again, this is me going Black Swanny. If we're looking at 79, 80, 84, we're still looking at the idea of being 84 years of Israel will be mid-trib, quite possibly, unless we got something wrong. But you can't get away from that number 84. And in 1784, this Statue of Liberty was dedicated to you guys. Dedicated to you. To honor your request to be released to do whatever you want. If you want to have sex with other men, you can have sex with other men. If you want to have sex with women, women with women, men with men, pedophilia, whatever, murder in broad streets, in the broad street, out in the open, you can assassinate people. Like, that's your right because you said something that we don't agree with. So somebody is allowed to kill you because you made them angry or whatever. Like it gets to a point where nobody knows what their rights. It's almost like in America, you guys are like treaty Indians, the whole works of you. You have so many rights, you don't know what to do with it. It's kind of a joke here in North America, in Canada. My dad used to tell it to me because I'm Métis, but he would say, that guy over there, that white guy over there, I gave him so many rights when we got in a fight that he thought he was treaty after. I beat him up so much. I gave him so many rights. Anyways, it's kind of a joke. The point is, you guys have so many rights, you're treaty. You guys think you're treaty. And I think that's the problem, is we think we have so many rights when we don't. When did we lose our rights? Well, we lost them at the Garden of Eden. We lost them. Adam gave up his right to rule the world to that ancient serpent. How do we know this? Well, the devil approached Jesus and said, look, this was given to me. I would argue was stolen, and I can give it to whomever I will. Tempting Jesus with that. Saying, look, you can get it all. You don't have to do whatever it is that you're thinking about doing. Just take the easy road. I'll give you all this stuff if you just bow before me. And God said, thou, singular. This is why I love the King James Bible. Thou, it is written, thou must serve the Lord thy God. Thou only shall only serve the Lord thy God. Talking to Lucifer, you should be worshiping one God. You shouldn't be getting people to try and worship you. And after that, the devil left him to be tempted another day or two to try and come after him another time. Where am I going with all this stuff? Well, now we get Tyler Chuckles. We'll call him Chuckles, and I'm going to show you his first court appearance. I call him Chuckles because let's just watch this footage here. You tell me if this is the appropriate name. And then I'm going to share my thoughts about this here. So he's in court today. So this is the preliminary hearing. So let me just find the clip.
Of this person, I did, or I know what they're saying.
We'll see if that was a mistake.
And our proposal. Some report has it.
Just a database of the people's right? It's not an interview or just to get it right.
If you
The thing that kind of jumps out to me is how properly groomed this guy is. Like, he's all dressed up. I thought he'd be in a jumpsuit, like a red or an orange jumpsuit. This guy's composure is just like, yeah, you can drag this out. I don't know if he's thinking I'm going to get off, if this is going to be blamed on Candace Owens. See, you kept going down this road of going after Charlie Kirk's murderers, that you contaminated the jury, and now they let him go. I could see someone blaming that on Candace Owens. I could see someone blaming the midterms on Candace Owens, the demise of America because of Candace Owens asking questions. I could see that. But that's a little bit too far ahead. Right now, I'm kind of shocked at how normal this guy looks, and the composure or the disposition of him to be like, I'm just sitting in at an office meeting, even though you're in Utah where they actually execute people for murder. That's one of their rules. So let's play this. I want to get to the part where he's laughing.
I'll identify the city we've sent to you. You can look at it and say,
Okay.
do we care?
Okay.
What
What does derogatory mean?
I
know, I've seen that before.
I assume it means nothing to implicate the city.
It's funny.
I assume it means nothing that would mean that they follow it further.
That's it.
That's my.
I see.
So if you just caught that in the back, I think that one of the other lawyers was asking, what does derogatory mean? What does that mean? And the guy's explaining it to him. Anyways, let's just continue here.
I'll identify one that we've sent to you.
Now this guy comes over to check on Chuckles, smiling.
One day. What's that? Maybe the strategy. For sure.
I don't know what he's saying. I don't know why he's whispering. He's aware that we're watching, that there's a camera here, but he's motioning something. I don't know if it's because of the shackles. I heard that Tyler has a shackle. I can kind of read lips. I'm not the best at it, but I can kind of read a little bit about what's going on. If I could see their face and see their mouth move, I can kind of figure out what's going on. But you have to really listen to pick up on what they're actually doing. And it's almost like it feels like they're trying to make sure that this guy's comfortable. I don't know. It's kind of weird. But.
I don't want to start talking about this. But I also want to make the assessment that is reflected. We will address that. And then just be.
Ignore the little typing at the bottom. I don't know why this thing has closed caption. Poland is an ally that is ready to, talking about Ukraine and whatever, like it has nothing to do with this video. So that's a distraction as well. But I think what they're looking for is, as far as I can tell right away out of the gate, they're looking for mistakes. They're waiting for somebody to make a mistake. And I know this is early. This is a preliminary hearing. So it's just, it's bizarre. And I'll show you what I mean here.
Okay. 40-10.
They catch on after a while that I think they kind of realize the camera's behind them. And I think it's this lady here, when they're talking, they actually move the mic because they're actually talking amongst each other. And I'm trying hard to really listen. I don't know what she said about 40. If this is going to take 40 minutes, 40 days, I don't know. I don't know what she said there. I do see the shackle now. His left hand has a handcuff, and he's probably shackled to his legs. That's so he can't get away or whatever it is. So his right hand is free because he's probably most likely right-handed. If he has to swear, promise to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, all this kind of stuff. But his left hand is actually shackled to his left ankle and probably the right ankle. Like I would guess that both ankles are attached together, and then like one chain of handcuffs, and then another chain comes up to his hand, which again, if we're talking about liberty, it's interesting that the Statue of Liberty has ankle bracelets broken off. And I don't know, that light bearer, that almost seems like a symbolic picture of Lucifer, if I'm being honest, the Statue of Liberty. So let's just continue on here. Obviously, he's not used to being in cuffs. That says something right there, just by he's rubbing that. He's feeling a little bit more self-conscious about this ankle thing, or this wrist bracelet, the handcuffs. So he's going to keep his right hand over, because I think he's aware that the camera is there seeing him in cuffs. Again, ignore the graphics on the bottom. It's interesting that he has a lower lumbar chair to support his spine for long periods of time sitting. And isn't it interesting that people from Turning Point USA would say that Charlie Kirk's spine was amazing? He was like Superman, because when he got shot by 30-06 in the neck, it actually hit his spine, went down into his stomach, and then stopped. So it's interesting that chair kind of looks a little bit like a spine, a little bit like vertebrae or whatever, but that's a chair that's designed to keep you in court for a long time, keep you comfortable, I guess. He said, I can't have a sip. And I don't know what she said. If she said no, but he's thirsty now. He's parched. So he's asking for a drink, which, again, if you think about it, I don't know where I get this stuff from, but it just popped into my head that Jesus Christ asked for a sip because he was thirsty, because he just endured one of the longest trials. Like all night long, he had endured a trial. And when he was on the cross, he said that he was thirsty, and they gave him gall, water mixed with vinegar and stuff. So it was like, that's how they treated our Savior. And this guy's asking for a sip of water. And I don't know if she's saying no, but I think they're going through the idea that what's politically correct in a court session, like you can't be chugging water. I don't know what.
He's here, I saw him walk in. He's sitting in the back.
So I don't know. They're just having a normal conversation, and he's smiling. That's why I call him Chuckles. It's like nothing seems to. He's not even fearful of the idea that he could be executed. It's weird, man. No remorse. I think that makes you think too. Is this guy thinking I'm getting off? Like I'm either gonna get released secretly, and they'll just say, oh yeah, he was sentenced to death and we executed him, but because we don't want to make this public, we're going to do it in secret. Meanwhile, they ship him off to some island, pay him a bunch of money, and then he just disappears. They disappear him. I mentioned this to my wife, and she's like, "You're thinking too far ahead." Am I, though? Am I? He seems too relaxed. Like, to me, he should be more stoic, stoic's probably not the right word, but more maybe stone face, maybe everybody's out to get me kind of thing. And I'm fearful for my life because one of these sheriffs could take me out, or if I do something wrong, I could be executed or whatever. But he's so chill and so relaxed right now. It's like they're all buddies. Nothing like that virtual trial that they had where he looked like he was just stoned. He was just like, I don't even think that was him. I think it was just a video that they did and they just kept looping it because his eyes were weird after a while. Like, you stare at it, you're like, I don't know what I'm looking at here. They probably just told him to sit still for 5 seconds and then they just looped it for like an hour. It was weird. Roadblocks. So weird. You can hardly hear these guys, and there is a good mic there, but it's like they're just mouthing words to each other. I don't know. So I think I just heard her say, I can get you some water. So he's really thirsty. Notice how crystal clear her mic is. You're probably wondering, why is this guy spending so much time? Because this is my first look at this guy. It's my first real look at it. I seen the video. I'm like, oh, I want to talk about this. So I'm actually into the area where I haven't watched this before. And there's only 2 minutes left. So it's real quick. I just wanted to kind of observe how he is, how the courtroom session is. And maybe down the road, I might do a live show or something while they're doing the trial, if it's not going to be closed, which I have a feeling it's going to be closed off to the public.
It's kind of weird. Like it.
Kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now she moves the mic away. Now you can't hear anything from Tyler's side. Water.
All rise. Court is being used now second.
I think part of the thing is they don't want to give you water because you're going to have to go to the bathroom, and that's not the purpose here. The purpose here is to do this procedure and not to give you water so that you're like, I got to go to the bathroom, because he's handcuffed. So just kind of interesting. Bad camera angle. Like, I'd like to see the front of him, but
Please be seated. Court is now in session. Counsel, if you could enter your appearances, please.
Your Honor, Christopher Ballard, Ryan McBride, Chad Grunander, and Lauren Hunt on behalf of the state.
Remember those names, Lauren Hunt, all these guys, because they're going to be so familiar with us by the end of this trial. This is this generation's O.J. Simpson trial. Like I'm predicting this is going on till next year, like 2027, something like that. I know people will be like, no, it's got to be over right away. For sure, it'll go on till next year, the fall. Like for sure, at least 6 months or so. Like these trials don't wrap up that quick. So remember those names.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Kathy Nestor, excuse me, Richard Novak, Stacy Visser on behalf of Mr. Robinson.
Good afternoon.
I like how she touches him too. It's like on behalf of Mr. Robinson, Mr. Robinson. It's like this gentle soul that all he did was just execute a man in front of the public. Like, really? And the security, if you want to talk about the security, they had way more security than Charlie Kirk ever had. It's crazy what the state pays for.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Jeff Hunt and David Ryman appearing on behalf of the media interveners that are identified in our motion papers.
Good afternoon.
Michael Judd, Your Honor, Parsons, Bailey, and Latimer, on behalf of another set of media interveners also identified in the briefs.
And that's it. All right. So we will cover more of that trial. I am sure. I'm sure of it. So what do you guys think so far about the trial? Like, I know this is just the beginning, but what is kind of your vibe? What is your feel when you see this guy? Does it feel like he has a lot to lose, or does it kind of feel like this guy knows something that we don't, or they've told him something that says, look, the worst thing you're going to get is like a misdemeanor or something. I know how these people work and whatever. Don't worry about it. All this kind of, I don't know, but he seems too relaxed for me. I think I would have expected him to be a little bit more sheepish, a little bit more, I'm ashamed of what I did, that I executed someone, unless he didn't do it. This gives me the vibe that this guy didn't do it. I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm just saying he gives off that vibe that's like, I know I didn't do it. I didn't confess. I didn't do it. They don't have any footage of me coming in to confess. Nothing. So I'm pretty relaxed. Because usually if you're guilty, but again, he's very thirsty. We get this a few times in this little 6-minute video. So that's something as well. Anyways, thank you guys for sticking around for the last hour. Appreciate it. Hope you like this type of format where I try to unpack things and keep things shorter instead of for hours kind of thing. And I will go live on Sunday, the Lord willing. We'll go live with a few panelists, and that'll be fun as well. I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about because I think things are going to start ramping up. Things are going to start to get busy going into the new year. Again, if we're still here, because I still got to do a year in review, like all the stuff that happened this year leading up to Charlie Kirk. I think that would be a good place to, that'd be a good time to talk about all this stuff. About like starting off with the Cybertruck incident blowing up at the beginning of the year to just kind of kick things off. It's just kind of weird, right? Like fireworks. We're talking about Independence Day. We're talking about the Statue of Liberty, talking about the year of release, the Lord releasing Israel, basically to famine, to pestilence, to the sword, to beasts. That's also hinted at in the book of Revelation, by the way. When all these plagues come, when all the seals are open, it's swords, it's pestilence, it's famine, it's animals, all kinds of stuff going on in the book of Revelation. So it feels like we're kind of gearing up to that 250th year of independence I would argue Americans were independent from God in some way. At least that's what it looks like today. So we're in for a real ride, folks. We're in for a real ride. So thank you for sticking around. Make sure and subscribe. Make sure and like the video and share this with other people if you got something out of this. Thank you for watching. See you later.
Black Swan Revelations here on YouTube brought you today's mind-bending journey. Dive into the discussion, your comments, questions, prayer requests, and powerful testimonies of Jesus' love are what fuel this community. Did today's episode hit home? Smash that like button. New here? Subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a live stream or a video upload. Thanks for being part of today's adventure. Catch you in the next video, or maybe even in the clouds. Stay curious, stay blessed.